All right, body weight multipliers are actually very biased towards certain body structures, like people being short. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. Even though these days my training is mostly working on improving my physique further after years and years of strength sports, strength coaching, all of that, I still like to touch on these topics because they're relevant. When it comes to the topic of body weight multipliers, you'll see people who are like, well, this person, they want us to have a standard of lifting X times amount of body weight on whatever lift. Or when they'll say, well, this person is stronger than you pound for pound on the multiplier. And it's like, well, they're shorter, so they should be, okay? So when people forget that, they don't know that these things are not used in strength sports. So powerlifting, for example, they don't use body weight multipliers. They use weight classes and then Wilks scores. And the Wilks scores devalue your body weight as an advantage to some extent. Meaning a person having a double body weight bench for a tall person is way, 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 way more difficult than it is for a short person. Case in point, some of the strongest benchers in the world in the heavier weight classes, and I'm talking world record level or guys who are going to world championships, can't bench double their body weight. All right, let that sink in for a moment. There are men who are placing first at worlds in powerlifting in the heavier weight classes who cannot bench double their body weight. Yet it's relatively common in guys who are like 180 or less. Not that uncommon, is it? Really, when you start looking around online and everything, it's because they're shorter. As a lot of the heavier weight guys are taller. Most of your guys who are 300 plus pounds in a strength sport are over 6 foot tall. They're over 6 foot tall. Accordingly, they're going to be bigger and heavier, and people have to realize the body weight multipliers are very biased towards lighter people. All right, being shorter is biased towards being lighter. Now, obviously, body fat matters because body fat's not helping you at all on these multipliers, so being lean helps. But what happens when you have a person who's lean, pretty strong, and their multipliers aren't good? People will say, well, why is that? How come this guy, whatever, he's 220 or something with abs, and he's strong, but this other guy's pound for pound way stronger? It's because that other guy's probably shorter. Anyone who's 6 foot plus is a complete absolute freak if they have a high body weight multiplier. They're an absolute genetic freak usually. Okay, and it's because of a number of reasons. Number one, obviously, the taller you are, the more muscle you're going to have when you start maxing out your size. That's a big part of it. So you're going to weigh a lot more. Tall people weigh more than shorter people. That's a big factor. Then we come to leverages and moment arms. So, a perfect example. I'm not super tall. I'm up in the average height range for an American male, right at average, which is taller than average around the world still. But I'm not a super tall guy, but I have long arms. I have longer than average arms for my height. So look how long all my pressing is. Okay, so this should tell you a lot. So overall, a taller person is probably going to have longer legs. All their weights are moving a longer distance. So look at some of the guys you see out there who are a bit shorter. They're doing a closer grip bench than that, and their bench might only be like 18 inches. 12 inches if they're really short. So there's definitely some YouTubers and people who I know who have really good benches, right? Especially for their body weight. But they're like 5'4", 5'5". You guys see where we're going with that? They don't have long arms. So for that person to bench 350 pounds, they may not need to be anywhere near 200 pounds to do that. And I'm talking real height, not internet height. A lot of guys seem to not know their actual height, which is interesting, where they're 2 inches of shoes and they're throwing that on. No, I'm talking about your real height. You start getting to average height, so in America that's around 5'9" to 5'10", or you start getting towards 6 foot, look how far you've got to move the weight on a squat or a bench press. Look how long that weight has to move. How much more force does it require? Then you have to think about the moment arms involved from the lever links. All right, if someone is shorter, they have a big leverage advantage. They don't have to move the weight nearly as far, and that matters. Okay, so think about benching. So say take 350, which is less than my max, but 350. Think in terms of energy and force. To move that weight 24 inches versus 12 inches. Well, in theory, take twice as much work is done. Now, it doesn't mean it's twice as hard, but in terms of the force production, it's a big deal. It's significantly different, right? So even if they had the same size and strength overall, how much more would you expect a person who moves the weight 12 inches instead of 24, double the distance? They may be a lot stronger. So if they had the same amount of muscle, instead of a 350 bench, let's say someone benches 350 with that 2-foot range of motion, which mine is actually longer than that, they might bench over 400 with the same amount of force and energy being used for that half distance. Okay, it matters. It matters a lot. So shorter people have an enormous advantage. Lighter people have a bigger advantage. Just like we talk about multipliers. An elephant can't lift that much weight relative to its body weight, whereas an ant can lift hundreds of times its body weight. Why? Because of the leverages and stuff involved. We even look at skeletal structures of animals, and the bigger an animal is, the bigger the ratios of bone thickness has to be relative to the length for them to support things. Okay? Their bones just aren't thick, don't have to be equal, they have to be thicker than a smaller animal in proportion to their length, just to handle the loads without breaking to support them. Okay, so these things are not direct one-to-one comparisons when it comes to lifting weights, structures, any of this stuff. And biologists can tell you that when it comes to animal bones. Then people say, well, just imagine if an ant was as big as us. Well, they wouldn't be able to survive. Their exoskeleton and shape, they would collapse on themselves. So it doesn't work like that. That wouldn't scale either. You couldn't just magically enlarge an ant with the same proportions. He wouldn't even be able to walk. So that's giving you the extremes. But in humans, it starts mattering. When there's 5-6 inches different in height between two people, their strength multipliers are going to be vastly different, even if their muscle and strength is proportionate to their frame. So there's a reason, we even talk about overhead pressing. Remember Half Thor, that one of the world's strongest men, played the mountain. He can barely overhead press his own body weight. That's like his max. You go to a lighter weight or a shorter person, pressing your body weight on a strict press is considered good, but it's not elite world level. But in the case of a 400 plus pound strong man, it is. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.